You're listening to a Rock Candy podcast.
Hi, my name is Stephen Long, and I host a show here on Rock Candy called Sacred Tension. It's about the spiritual discipline of asking questions. If you find yourself uncomfortable in your faith, or if you find yourself caught between modern science and ancient religion, or if you're curious about the journeys of others who are sorting out faith and doubt, Sacred Tension is a place where nothing is off limits. You will find conversations with pastors, cult experts, spiritual leaders, and skeptics, all discussing the ways we navigate the faiths we were given. Find Sacred Tension right here on Rock Candy and wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome to the Eleventylife podcast.
What's up, unicorns? Welcome to this week's episode of Eleventylife. I'm so excited that you've decided to join us today. We have a fantastic episode planned today with the one and only Luke Huff of the band Glitch Gum. Luke has done an absolutely phenomenal remix of the song Mascot from our latest album, Gloom and Bloom, and his version of Mascot just dropped, I think, 2 weeks ago. It is relatively new on Spotify, and it's already getting a lot of love. That's all coming from you guys. Thank you so much for everybody that has checked out that song, that has gone to stream it or added it to a playlist. It is an absolute honor to have our music be a part of your life in any way that you see fit. As always, huge hugs and high fives to everybody over at the Eleventylife Facebook group, as well as everybody hanging out on the Eleventyseven Discord, which you guys can all get to via links in the show notes for this episode. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this conversation that I had with Luke. I hope that it is informative. I hope that it is encouraging. And in keeping with the theme of this episode, I hope that you are all finding loving and supportive communities of people who are helping you achieve your artistic goals and visions and dreams. I know that a lot of aspiring artists and songwriters listen to the show, and I do not want to waste any opportunity that I have to encourage you in what you're doing. And speaking of encouragement, thank you to everybody who is purchasing anything and everything from the Rock Candy Recordings online store. All of those vinyl, CDs, and t-shirt sales are incredibly important for us. So big love and unicorn magic to everybody that is supporting us in that way. We have had a ton of orders going up from the store this month, and it is always so encouraging to think about the things that we create going all over the planet, literally like New Zealand, China, Japan, Canada. Gosh, it just really makes me feel like $1 million. So thank you for that. And without further ado, here's today's episode with the one and only Luke Huff of Glitch Gum.
Yo.
Hi.
Hello. Can you hear me through the mic and stuff?
I think I'm just hearing you via the whatever the regular mic is. It doesn't sound like the condenser is working.
What about now?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just needed to. I know. It's a bit of a messy setup today. It's messy out there. I've had work canceled for the past week because when Nashville gets an inch of snow, we don't know what to do. Because I grew up in Michigan and there was salt everywhere. As soon as snow hit, boom, salt. We don't have that here. We don't get. I don't know if that's the same in South Carolina. Yeah. Or are you in North Carolina?
I'm in North Carolina, but I grew up in South Carolina, and it was definitely the same way. I mean, we would all sit around our, kerosene heaters in the middle of the living room, just praying that either school or church would be canceled, so we didn't have to go.
Exactly. Was it ever one and not the other?
It depends on when the Lord answered our request. I mean, if.
And how?
Yeah, it kept us being good boys and girls, I guess.
Hey, that makes sense. Are you rolling, by the way?
It's always rolling.
It's always rolling?
Yeah.
That's great to hear. All right, I'll start rolling on my end too then.
Cool.
Here we go. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh my God, yeah, round 2.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that our first podcast got somehow destroyed in this computer swap that we did at the studio. That's the only explanation that I have for it, because I literally edited the podcast, everything was great, and I banked it, and then when I went to go find it, it was that was the one podcast that was just over and done, and
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I mean, I like talking to you first and foremost. And second of all, it has to be what it has to be, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So how's your winter going so far in Nashville?
It is winter now. Usually it's like just like a little windy and like we get snow like rarely ever. But this week it just decided to rain down on us like so hard, like about half a foot of snow we got like Monday. And so like we've just been stuck at home for the past week. It's been kind of weird, but it's given me an opportunity to finish some new projects. So
I want to hear about the new projects. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm working on a new album that I probably can't talk much about before or during the time of this release, but I will say it's a big effort and it's a bit of a detour from what you would think Glitch Gum sounds like. We're kind of playing with more conventional pop and rock elements, which is super fun for me.
I'm here for that.
Yeah, it's fun because it's like the basis of the Glitch Gum project is like it's gonna be catchy, it's gonna be fun, but like for the most part we kind of subverse pop stereotypes, and the fact that this project we've kind of like oversaturated them in this, I want to call it ironic because like it kind of is, but like also it's just fun, and a lot of pop punk influence as well, like more than my last project, which is surprising if you're a fan of me, but I will always crank up the guitars project by project. So super excited about that, and it has a big visual aspect too, so I'm trying to like work on rolling that out, lots of music videos and stuff.
I love that. So this is going to be under Glitch Gum, or this is like part of a different project?
No, this is the next Glitch Gum album.
Okay, killer.
Yeah, I'm
so
super stoked
about
about it, and it's coming together like super fast. Like if we're following the format from the last episode, we'll probably talk about my last album in a bit, but that album took me like 2.5 years to complete, and this is on track to be finished being written and recorded in a year, and then hopefully come out by the end of this year.
See, that, like, when you talk about things in those timeline terms, it makes me feel a little less self-conscious about the time that it takes me to put music out. Because I can't remember if we talked about this before or not, but it feels like it takes forever to put out an Eleventy record.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like there might be some songs that maybe most of it, like if I'm lucky, maybe it's all done in a week, but then it'll take another 2-3 weeks of nothing but just like honing down sounds, trying out different parts, like trying different versions of it. Like, and it just feels like it goes on for forever. And sometimes by the time that I don't know if you can relate to this, but by the time you get to the end of the line, you're not sure if you have the best idea or if you're just so fucking tired of working on it. And you're like, it has to be it. It feels good. It feels good. Let it go.
Yeah, there's a point where you just like become done with it.
Yeah.
So like I'm definitely aware of that, but I am in the same boat where it's like when I finish a project, I'm like, do I like this? Or am I like almost Stockholming myself into thinking this is the best thing that I've done, and really I'm just exhausted because and that was definitely true for the Sprinkles project, because like I had been working on that since January 2021. So we were in COVID and the hyperpop digicore scene was like in full bloom. Yeah. And then by the time I finished writing it, a lot of the artists have already moved to either like top 40 pop music or like rock, more indie influences. Yeah. And there was just like a new scene, and people were kind of saying like hyperpop's dead now and stuff like that. And so like I've got this wide variety of tracks that I've made and I still want to put out. How can I do that in this like timeline?
Right.
Yeah, in this economy.
Is hyperpop a viable product in this economy?
Exactly. What's the supply? What's the demand? Yeah, well, that's the thing is like I think like the best albums and my favorite albums that I know of are ones that like no matter like what the time they made it in is, they were thinking ahead. They were thinking of the future, or they weren't even thinking about what the current landscape of music was at the time that they're recording it. Because like, yeah, some of those albums like were in the process like 5 years before you even heard them, but they feel like they're from like 2065.
Yes.
And I'm always jealous of that because I'm such an in the moment person that I'm like, I love what's happening right now and I just want to do that and put it out as fast as possible.
Yeah. And I don't think there's anything like wrong with that. But you're right. Like to your point, for me, one of those songs is Rock the Casbah by the Clash.
Yeah.
It's so crazy because like every time that song comes on, it's like you can put it on any indie rock or top 40 playlist or whatever, and there's something about it that feels really timeless, even though it's like it's very evident that it's a super stylized kind of recording. It doesn't feel punk. It feel like if a punk band put out something like that now, we would be like, oh, they're selling out, or they've moved to top 40 or whatever. Right. But they just kind of did their own thing with it, and it still holds up.
Yeah, and like that's an example of like, yeah, they're so in tune with their craft that they can transcend like the current scene or the current musical landscape. It has a timeless effect to it. I think about a lot of Bjork's music and a lot of Daft Punk's music when I think of this. I mean, like I was just talking about this with my friend. Discovery was made in like 2000 something. Like early 2000s.
Yeah.
It sounded like probably the future for the 2000s. It sounded like nothing coming out of that era. And it still sounds like mind-blowing like today.
Yes. Oh, here we go. 2001. I remember.
2001.
Yeah, I remember picking up this magazine called Remix. I don't even know if it's around anymore. But like when I started getting into synthesizers and I was getting into bands like Joy Electric and everything, I was like, oh, just anything with the word electronic or remix or in it. And I remember getting that record because I saw all these amazing write-ups about it. And the first time that I played it, I was like, I don't get this. Like it wasn't the electro pop kind of thing that I was used to. It was super like European, or I guess French, now that we know.
Yeah, makes sense.
But it was just so bizarre, and like it would take me years to discover that they had said, like they weren't playing all the things in the track, that they were flipping samples in such a masterful way with really antiquated, by our standards, like antiquated hardware, and making it sound so amazing and alive and cool, and like everything on that record just worked. Like you can play any cut off that record now, and it's so instantly recognizable by everyone.
Yes, and like you bring up a good point. Like the technology that they used and continue to use even for like records like Random Access Memories was just like so analog and so like hardware and like you said antiquated, but they used it in a way that made such like timeless music. And they just had this like almost perfectionist mindset that like, and I feel like I try to keep that in my music, but like you said, at some point I just get tired. I'm just like, I'm done. Like, I'm like personally for my mental health, I want to move on to the next thing. I think it's good, you know?
Yeah.
But that's why I try to attack something at the start of the project, like as hard as I can.
Yeah.
Like second session of a song, I'm like thinking about this random noise in the bridge, thinking about like, you know, what combination of basses I need to use, like where are the hits going to be, because I know if I save that like minute stuff for the end, it's not going to come out as good as I want it to. Whereas like if I'm like kind of like glazed over, I can still be like, okay, this is what a pop song structure should be like, and we should kind of mirror it in these like the big picture stuff I can still do, you know. That's kind of how I compensate.
It's so funny how there are a lot of artists I work with that they're like, they'll just kind of play around with chords or melodies or whatever, and that's their thing. A lot of times when I'm working on stuff in the studio, I'll be like, oh, I don't know what happens next. I don't know how to start this bridge or start this verse, but I do have an idea for just like a small little transitional thing, like a little high pass filter, a little like crazy little flirpty-derp that you put in there, just a little bit of ear candy. And I find so many times that like when I am up against some really hard writer's block or I'm like feeling uninspired, there's never a point where you're like, I have zero clue what to do. Do the thing that you know, even if it doesn't feel like the right thing, even though it may feel insignificant. Putting those little things in there is kind of like taking out the trash, right? Like just do a chore. Like start hooking something else up. Play move on to a different part of the song, or just do what you know needs to be done in the moment, and everything else most of the time will fall into place if you just kind of keep that forward motion. I don't know if you experience that at all when you're working on stuff.
Yeah, I do. And it's funny because like I experienced it to like a bit of a hyper specific place where like for a while, like in my production, like if I don't know what to add to a production, I'm like, well, I've got a few choices: a saw wave, a sine wave, big 808, you know, like I just like do the things that like I've done like forever. And so, so like I'm like, I have these like certain sounds that like if I'm like this track needs something but I don't know what, I'll just put it in there. And so like if you even if you listen to like my remixes alone, okay, sine wave needs to go here. We need to bit crush it, you know, like big 808's actually here. But that's like after I've done like whatever the track calls for, you know?
Right. Speaking of that, I want to go back and talk like a little bit about Sprinkles, like your full length that you have out already. It kind of like kickstarted everything with the Glitch Gum brand and what you're doing. And I know we talked about this last time, but just give me a little bit of that origin story again for everybody that like hasn't heard it.
Yeah. So, as far as like Glitch Gum origin stories, I've been doing this, oh my goodness, for like about 5 years now. The Glitch Gum project. Yeah. I've been doing music ever since I could speak, basically. Yeah. Well, like not really, but I started playing drums when I was 10 and then picked up a bunch of different instruments along the way. Ended up going to Belmont for music. My principal instrument was bass guitar. Yeah. But in there as a freshman, I started thinking about like what I want to do for a solo project or something. And up until that point, I loved pop punk and I loved indie rock and pop music and EDM and all these things. And I was into like all the bands that like people were like, that's weird. Like Kiro Kiro Bonito and Death Grips and Skrillex. And I know Skrillex isn't a band, but you know what I mean? Just like, or even like YouTube stuff like Perry Grip and Crazy Frog and stuff like that. Like I was like into all the weird stuff. Then right before I went to college, I heard 100 gecs for the first time. And I was like, this is everything that I've ever consumed and I've ever wanted to do packaged into one thing with a personality that is so akin to mine. Right. That I feel like this is the music I have to do. So I started working on the Glitch Gum project in the fall of 2019. Put together an EP. It's not around anymore, but it was like the early stages. Around that time, I got contacted by a guy named CM10 to do a feature for a song called Never Met, which ended up being like a big TikTok viral hit unbeknownst to us. Right. That ended up being crazy, and that's when I decided, okay, people like these sounds and this voice that I do and like my lyrics and like all these like weird nuanced things that make the Glitch Gum project. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start doing that more. I'm gonna take it seriously. So I put together my first album, Life After the Demise of Planet Gumball, and around that same time I did a cover of Kyoto by Phoebe Bridgers, which ended up getting recognized by Phoebe Bridgers and is now an official remix, which still blows my mind. After that,
so how did you end up sourcing the track for everybody that's like listening that maybe is into white label kind of stuff? Like, how did you end up sourcing tracks to remix for that, or did you just rip some off the internet?
Oh, what I ended up doing was I made a cover of Kyoto by myself, no stems, no nothing, and I was like, what if Kyoto was a hyperpop song? Yeah, because I just was obsessed with this idea of like turning a Phoebe Bridgers song into a hyperpop song. Yeah, of course. But I was like, probably can't do one of the ballads. I don't want their fan base to like come attack me. So I'm like, one of the upbeat songs makes sense, and Kyoto was my favorite at the time. Yeah. So did that one, did a whole cover, put it up on streaming services, and then Phoebe's team was like, hey, we love this. Phoebe was saying that she wants to take your instrumental and literally like recreate the vocal over it. Yeah. Because I did it in a different key. I actually like messed up the melody in some parts, but I guess she liked it because she went back and did it like exactly how I did it.
So cool.
Like so cool. Like I even messed up her lyrics just a tiny bit and she did the same. And I was like, that is crazy. That's insane. As an artist, I don't know how I could set my pride aside long enough to do that. It was like tiny things. Like I said, you called from a payphone, and she said, you called me from a payphone. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So I just ended up doing it on my own accord and put up a little clip on TikTok. That started going semi-viral. Phoebe ended up seeing it and commenting about it. And I was like, well, I guess I should make a full version.
Yeah.
Made a full version. And then she was like, okay, I want to like get into this for real. And so that's kind of how it happened. And I was working with her producers and her team the whole time. She said hello to me once and was like, I love the remix, excited to hop on it. And I was like, cool, this is peak. Awesome.
Killer.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it happened. But in terms of sprinkles, I know that was the question. I'm sorry.
No. This is good. These are happy trails.
Happy trails. But yeah, no, Sprinkles was like, I was done with Planet Gumball, the first album, and I was like, I want to move on to the next thing. I feel like I've got all this potential to like make a new project because I was learning super fast.
Yeah.
Like everything was kind of happening very quickly. And we were all in quarantine around this time. So I was like, I've got nothing else to do besides pay attention to my studies and then make music and just like get better at it. So was just making tracks. I probably made a track a week that whole semester.
Yeah.
And like 5 of them ended up being the first half of Sprinkles, which I ended up splitting the release into 2 EPs, Sprinkles AM block and Sprinkles PM block.
Yeah.
Because there's a bit of a radio station through line through the project, like Sprinkles Radio and all that, because all the tracks are so different. I thought that would really tie it together.
Yeah.
And then since I've been sitting on this album for so long, I was like, I don't know if people want to take it in as is. So I split it up into 2 very digestible EPs, each with their own like different sound.
Yeah.
Because like the AM block was like all the tracks I made when like big synthesizers and big 808s and like pots and pans were like the sound.
Yeah.
And so it was like very energetic. That's like the morning. And then like the evening was like when I started getting into more like rock centric stuff and like a little bit more emotional. I wrote a folk song and I was like, gotta put that in there, like, so, anyways, like that album, the crux of that album was because Planet Gumball was a loose concept album and I felt like a very ambitious project. This one was like, I just want to do whatever I want. And the concept is that they're all bangers, basically.
Lofty goal.
Concept album. Yeah, exactly. Well, you say that in jest, but at some points it did feel like a lofty goal. But every track kind of came about naturally. There were like periods where I was like, can I write anything more? Like the album's not done, but I don't know if I can write anything more.
Yeah.
And then I wrote like the last 3 songs on the project, or not the last 3 in chronological order, but I wrote Down, Down, Down and Friends is Better. And I finished Everybody's Gotta Leave in that like same period after like a 6-month dry spell.
Yeah.
So like, that's why it took so long. But like, I just wanted every song to be the best it could be and just have fun with the project. And so that's what it ended up being.
I love that. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. As you're talking, I want to go back to your Belmont days for a second.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten so much, like I used to be an educator in higher ed. I used to teach music business and audio production and all these different things. It seems like there is such a disparity of experience between people that like go to places like Belmont to get an education, to want to be a part of the music industry, and people that end up going in a completely opposite direction. It does feel like there is this weird sort of black magic that there's some people that kind of get it and use that education to their advantage, and there are other people that it's like they might be super highly talented, but they're also like can't wrap their head around the fact that like this is the music business and you can't just build skills for the rest of your life and do well. You have to like be building a business acumen and a brand and all of the things that we as artists, I feel like, and maybe I'm projecting onto you, but things that I hate thinking about brand. I hate thinking about marketing. I hate thinking about putting together a marketing plan, a budget, about like, I don't post a lot on Instagram because I just hate adding to the noise of like, look at me, look at me, look at me. Everybody kind of gets turned into a pick me on Instagram. And there has to be a fine line. Like there has to be a better way of doing stuff, but it's also just like one of those hard realities. So thinking about that, I wonder if there's something that you feel like was advantageous that you learned during your time at Belmont. If there's something that like was an aha moment for you that you can attribute directly to an education spent at a place like Belmont.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, like I just got better as a musician, like point blank. Like I learned more theory and I learned like how to play better and produce better and to be like an artist. But in terms of like the business, like, yeah, I mean, it's in Nashville. So like they're like super like hard on the business. Like, they're like, this is the music business. Like what you drive down the street, it's Music Row.
Sure.
Bunch of publishers, bunch of producers, you know, like you want to pitch yourself. And so like that was always intimidating to me at the start. And when me and CM10 went viral just off of good music, I had this ignorant mindset where I was like, you don't really need that, you know, like you just need to like be talented and stuff. The people will come to you. But then, I quickly realized that that's not the case. And you do need to actively like promote yourself, which can be very like soul draining for sure. But I kind of look at it as like, which is funny because I also don't post much on TikTok, which is ironic because TikTok kind of gave me my platform. But like it's like something you got to do. And like I just don't worry about looking stupid because the people who think I look stupid are going to think that anyways. But in terms of like what I learned, the biggest learning devices for me were like the community that I built. And like the fact that like the young Nashville community was so welcoming. Not everyone's perfect, but in comparison to the Los Angeles and New York scenes from what I've heard, it was a lot more like other artists gave you the freedom to do your thing.
Right.
And they weren't, and I wasn't so worried about like where we're going to overlap, where I'm going to stomp on your head kind of thing. Like, you know, it seemed like we all had a place. And so we were all trying to like help each other while also like stay independent and do our own thing. So I learned a lot about that and like the industry, just like move along at your own pace. Like, don't worry so much about like what the next person is doing, because then your art's going to suffer for that. So I learned a lot from the community of students and then also teachers, you know, like I learned a lot technically from the instructors in class, but then like talking to them in their office hours and stuff, I learned a lot about the industry and their experience and like how hard you really have to work. Kind of thing. And like the biggest thing is just like put your hand in so many different pots. And that like they stressed that at Belmont. They're like have multiple revenue streams is the words that they use. Because it's like you might be an amazing singer and want to be an artist for the rest of your life, but that might take some time. So in the meantime, why not be a background singer?
That might take some time. I love that.
It might, you know, like you never know. Like some people grind for a year. Some people grind for their whole life, you know, like they're artists that we think came out of nowhere that have been doing this for like 10 plus years prior. Trying to think of like there's like art. Oh yeah. I remember when Doja Cat was like an underground rapper. It was like a cool like alternative thing. And that happened for like years, like 3 years before like now she's like a pop star. Not in the sense of like she sold out or whatever, but you know, like we think of her in the same conversation as Ariana Grande, as like
Grammy
Justin
winners,
Bieber thing. As Grammy winners. She is a Grammy winner. But like when she kind of came onto the mainstream scene, everyone was like, she came out of nowhere. You will be putting in more work behind the scenes than people will realize is one thing that I learned. So don't get discouraged that your moment hasn't happened yet. I've had conversations with Seth, who I can't believe I haven't talked about yet.
That's my brother. Your brother,
and, my brother, my co-producer, my
super
mixer.
Super talented.
Yeah, we love him. And he's also my drummer when we do full band live shows, which happen sometimes. But anyways, I've had conversations with him about this because like my career has been, in the very fullest sense of the word, a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's gone up and it's gone down.
Yeah.
And I am so blessed with the experience that I've had. But, you know, there have been moments where I'm like, I'll never say that I'm back to square one or I'm back at the bottom, because I'm very blessed with an incredible fan base and community. But sometimes I'm like, yeah, no, I wonder, like, if this is going to do what I wanted to do or whatever. And then, like, one of us will be like, just stop, make the music you want to make.
Yes.
And work as hard as you can. And then whatever's meant to happen will happen, and your moment will come. I mean, I've had my moments. I'm not like, it kind of puts things into perspective. But you know, like, for any artist, like, just keep working and make sure that the music that you're making is true to yourself, because your moment will come regardless. You want to be happy with yourself and the art that you make when that happens. Because I've also run into artists who have, like, doing it for so long and they're, like, so tired. And they're like, fine, I'll just make a gimmicky pop song that I don't even like.
Yeah.
And then that's their moment.
Right.
And it's like, that moment was going to come regardless.
Yeah.
It just like, if it would have just come like a little further down the road, but you would have done exactly what you wanted.
It is so weird because there's so many, like, friends of mine have become really successful off of their art, and they're still just as creatively, or I don't want to say creatively, there's still this gaping emotional hole of need, because the thing that they want to be recognized for, the wound that they want for the world to put a salve in, right?
Yeah.
Is always the songs that are the least popular, like the thing that they put, you know what I mean? The art that they want to be known for is never the thing that the public gravitates towards. It's always their kind of throwaway bullshit. It makes them upset.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm also in, like, the same camp too, not like to that extent, but it's just hilarious that, like, and I love all of the songs on this project, but I think it's hilarious that, like, 2 years after hyperpop was declared dead,
right,
My Brain is Lasers is the most popular song on my album.
Yeah.
And that was like a fun, like, 2-minute, like, thought exercise. And it was just like me basically going crazy during COVID. And then, like, later down the road, I was like, how about this 5-minute post-rock opus, Everybody's Gotta Leave? It's just really funny. And it's not like I'm bitter about anything, because I love both of those songs, but it's like, yeah, people, like, just regular consumers aren't as focused on the little details as you are.
Right.
They want something that's going to make them feel good right away.
Right.
And
they want dopamine.
They want dopamine. And unfortunately, the royal we are throwaway songs that we don't spend a lot of time on, and we're just kind of shooting off at the mouth, spur of the moment kind of things. They're raw energy, and people want that.
Yes.
So, like,
I love how you put that. They're just raw energy.
It's just raw energy. I mean, like, that, like, Lasers was never a throwaway. In fact, like, we thought we were going to put that song out earlier because of how good we thought it was. But that was just like a raw, energetic moment. Like, I did not freestyle it, but I dang near could have, because it was just so, like...
Yeah. It's just free-flowing thought.
Free-flowing, and, like, that is art within itself.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have very conflicting thoughts about the music industry. You know, I do also wish that people would get recognized for, like, the stuff that they put a lot of time into. But you know what I think about that is I have friends that are really into that.
Yeah.
And their numbers may be few, but their heart is so big.
Yeah.
And, like, those are the kind of fans that you want to keep, are the people that will, like, stick with you no matter what you do. Because they don't like your music because it's popular. They like your music because they see the heart that you put into it and they relate to it.
Yeah, well, the inverse of that is this sort of narcissist, like it's almost a hidden kind of narcissism where you're like, you put something out and it resonates with the people, and you can't even experience the happiness and the gratitude and the gratefulness of that because you want to control people's perception of you and what people like about you so much that you can't just sit and have a beer with some friends over a cool piece of success that you had because you brought all this baggage to it. The world doesn't care about that. Like, People listening to your music don't know what you put into it. They only know if it made them feel something or emote something, or if they got goosebumps from it, or if they, and that's their connection. It belongs to them. Like, it doesn't actually belong to you. There is just something that you happen to make that they developed a connection with. Like, that's why I find it hard sometimes when people, like, sometimes we'll get emails from people who are like, oh my God, like, I heard this song that you did and it like really spoke to me in this way. And it's like so great. And I love this. And I always feel like the only way to interact with that kind of praise or recognition is just pure gratitude. Find the most bright point in the middle of your chest and just try to resonate with that person, because you had so little to do with that, with so little to do with their life up until the point that they met your music, right?
Yes.
That you had no control over what they were going to resonate with in that or not. So just be happy. Take no credit, and then also thank them. You know what I mean?
Yes. Take no credit. Thank them. That is such a good reminder and a very fresh perspective. Thank you for that. I think I'm going to use that in my own life too, but that is so important for people to hear. You, like, it's this interesting paradox. You, like, I tell people, well, me and my friend Stecker and our friend Alice in Motion, we're all artists and producers.
Yeah.
But we were having a conversation, and we were like, do you make music for yourself, or do you make music for other people? And the conclusion we came to is, like, you make music for yourself. Like, you don't want to, like, you know, make something that's like selfless. You like, you make it for yourself, but you make music for other people to listen to.
Yes.
It's this weird paradox, because you gotta understand, like, you can't, like, be so self-indulgent that no one is going to resonate with it.
Right. I have that conversation so many times. So glad that you brought that up, because there are times where I'll have this conversation with artists in the studio where I'm like, look, I know that this tickles your brain and it's definitely like a cool idea. However, within the context of you writing a song for the general public or for your audience or for an audience at all, this cannot feel masturbatory. Right? It cannot feel like the public is just watching you sitting here jerking off in a room by yourself to this guitar solo. You know what I mean? It's like,
I get what you're saying. Yes.
Like, keep them in mind and make the best product that you can. I feel like it just so happens that I love pop music. I love writing things that excite me or make me feel excited in some way, that I want to go back. I want to hit that repeat button. Like, I want to hear the song again. I want to relive those moments. And I feel like that's where the art and the craft lie. Like, if you want to just do, 10-minute guitar shreds, like, that's awesome. Maybe a YouTube channel is better for you, right? But if you're like wanting to build a career as a songwriter, as an artist, you have to start thinking about like what you're giving to the world and focus your art on creating the thing. People that are really good at blacksmithing work with metal. Right? People, you know what I mean? This is your metal. This is your heavy metal to work with.
And you got to understand, the dimensions and like what that metal is made of and what you can do with it, kind of thing.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm on the right track, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you got to understand what you're doing and what music you're making, and then find where you lie in that. And it's funny because we were talking about this new project that I'm working on. And it's been a hilarious journey for me, because ever since I started the Glitch Gun project and started putting more emphasis on my songwriting and everything, Seth was like, you have such a gift for writing pop music.
Oh my God, to hear something like that from your brother.
Yeah.
Your heart must have grown 10 sizes that day.
Exactly. The funny thing is, like, we, like, up until middle school, we hated each other, but like now we're like, he's my best friend. But that was the thing, is he said, you have such a gift for writing pop music. And I was like, but I want to be contrarian, and I want to like do the cool thing and be accepted by Pitchfork and all these like indie circuits. And he's like, dude, don't, like, just embrace like your natural gift of writing hooks and writing songs with pop structure.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, but I'll do it in a very subversive way.
Yeah.
And then that sort of horseshoed itself around to now I'm like, okay, if there's an obvious pop choice that needs to be made in the song, I'm going to make it.
Yes.
Because like that is what fulfills me at this moment. And I think I just, you can spend only so much time running away from yourself.
Yeah, that's a really hard one perspective.
I mean?
And I feel, just as your friend, I feel proud of you for going through the hero's journey that you had to take to arrive at that.
That's funny because the hero's journey plays a role in this next album.
Oh yes. Okay, cool. Yeah,
it's funny, but continue.
That'll be the little teaser for it.
Yeah.
There's so many times where when you really sit down and talk to people, to a lot of aspiring artists, you realize like that they're kind of in therapy. When you're in the studio, like everybody's in therapy and everybody's doing it for different reasons. And some people are like, I was disrespected as a child. Nobody showed me the respect that I wanted. And so now because of this like group of people that I hated in high school because they never accepted me for what I was, now my only metric for success is if some asshole at Pitchfork says that they like what I do, right? And it's not like, don't drag me on your black hole of a journey for that, right? Like, you don't have to pull everybody into that. You can create from a place that plays to your strengths, that is all the best parts of you, that you don't have to tamp down. You don't have to take this one road of just trying to convince the world that you are good. Be what you are, learn and grow, allow yourself to grow in that way. Don't bottleneck your entire future into these very specific people that you need and want praise from. Like that means that you're worshiping them to some degree, that you can't move on till you get something from them that they're never going to give you.
Right, because your journey and their journey are so parallel, like not even intersecting in any way.
Yes. And not to say that there are only assholes that work at Pitchfork. I don't think that at all.
I was just going to say, like, I don't want to cause beef with anybody.
I don't think that at all. I just mean they don't owe you. They don't owe you anything. Yeah. Like they're just talking about their preference in the same way that you're creating something from yours. You're both doing the same thing. Yeah,
exactly. And I know it's hard to like have that perspective as an artist, but you're so right. Just make what resonates with you, and they're gonna pick what resonates with them.
Yes.
And
no crime was committed.
No crime was committed.
No crime was committed.
We're all just doing our thing. Like that's seriously it. But yes. Love you, Pitchfork. Shout out, shout out, music critics. Y'all do your thing.
Yes,
I actually got interviewed by Pitchfork like years ago when they were talking about hyperpop.
Oh,
so
fun.
Obviously, no like hard feelings or anything. But no.
They're known for
like
being. They're like known for being this really hard limbo to cross under, right? Like it's a very hard dance to be appreciated by or acknowledged by Pitchfork, and I think it's because they do have these really specific standards, and they're also human beings, right? With very specific preferences, who are bombarded by hundreds of thousands of music submissions every day.
Absolutely. Same goes for Anthony Fantano. I think someone in this room needs to hear that. Not this room, but the room of people listening to this podcast.
Right, the royal room.
The royal room. Oh my goodness. Well, before we like get into this like too deep, you want to talk about the remix?
Oh my God, yes. I feel like we talked about it on the other podcast, and I had it as a given in the back of my mind. But
it's okay. I yap so much. I'm so sorry.
No, this is good. We'll cut out whatever we need to cut out.
For sure.
Yeah, but I love talking to you. I love hearing you yap. I love the things that you yap about.
Same to you.
And also at this point, like, we have the pleasure of seeing the remix out in the wild doing this podcast, whereas the last time we were like, yeah, maybe something cool will happen with the remix. It's fun.
Right.
But it does seem like people really love it, and the only feedback that I've gotten has been so glowingly positive. I think the very first day that it came out, I sent you like a screenshot from a dark hole of the Eleventy Discord where somebody was like, oh, this fucking rips. So
they're like, I'm doing the thing that I did with Black Winter Wells, where I listen to all of their music.
Yes. Yeah.
In preparation or because of the remix. And that's crazy that we're like gaining new fans
Yeah, well, that's what you were
this.
talking about earlier, where you were talking about how one of the greatest assets that you feel like you built, especially within your education, was just like the community. You want to be better because you're surrounded by better, and everybody's making each other better just by constantly doing the work, by hand to the plow.
And doing the work and not making you feel like crap for doing your work.
Yes, like it's okay for us all to be cringe in front of each other. Like we're all on this journey. Why would we ever shame anyone for doing something cringe? Yeah, because we all have to go there. Anyway, I love what you did with the Mascot remix. It was such a cool spin on it, and it feels like if the original one was sort of like this, unicorn, rainbows, and magic, yours is like if you pushed all of that into an SNES and blew out the back of the cartridge. That is what your remix feels like to me.
Yes. No, I basically was approached with this song and loved it and was like, I want to sorry, let's rewind that. Yeah. Basically, I love this song so much, and when I sat down to think about what I was going to do with it, I was like, there's so many directions I can go with this. I'm just going to do all of them and turn them up to 11.
Why make decisions?
Why make decisions when you could just make all the decisions? Right. No, seriously. Cause and my favorite thing about remixing bands specifically is that I can tap into the band mindset. So I noticed that, you guys have this rock energy and this punk element of Mascot. There was a punk element to it that I wanted to kind of bring out more forthright by literally making it a blast section. Right. And so I was like, we got to do that. But I don't think that should be the whole thing. I think I want to make this more hyper than it already is.
Yes.
Kind of thing. And so I was like, we need to go Digicore 100 gex kind of style with the chorus sort of thing. And then I love video game type synths using a very Juno-esque patch and serum or square waves and sine waves I've mentioned before, and saw waves. All those just basic sound tables, but run them through so much distortion. Yes. So much effects. I just love doing that. And this was just really this song was a playground for me, because I knew that you and I were kind of meeting in this threshold of you want me to go crazy. Right. And to do the glitch gun thing. To experiment. So so it's I, have lots of control in this, and kind of hearkening back to our conversation about who do you make music for? Of course I was making this for people to consume, but I was all when you get approached by a remixer, or not a remixer, but an artist to remix, right? I'm making music kind of for the artist too. Yeah. One of my main goals at the end of the day is for me to think it's cool, and then to send it to you, and you be like, this is cool. Right. And be like, how did you do that and stuff? I love that, especially when I'm because I've remixed for friends I've known before, they've asked me to do stuff like this, and that's when all bets are off, and I'm I'm just gonna go crazy because I want you to have a reaction specifically. And it was a similar thing because I've been aware of Eleventy for a while now, and when you reached out to me, I could tell you're a very nice person, and I'm okay, I want to strike a friendship sort of through this remix.
Oh my God. Well, I would have been friends with you if you had never pressed the spacebar on the remix.
Right, of course. But yeah, no, but I don't mean that super literally, but it's I was I want to go hard on this for this good person.
Well, I think you absolutely killed it. Well, thank you. I want to get just a little bit nerdy with you about the remix, because I think you and I both are really big fans of distortion and pushing something way past its limits, making it more interesting, making everything feel like it's constantly trying to break out, of Alcatraz. Every sound is breaking out of Alcatraz with explosives.
We're escaping.
Yes. One of my favorite plugins that I probably use way too much at this point. Like if there was a blackout or if somebody erased the Sound Toys Decapitator off the planet, I don't know, all of my mixes would fall apart. Like all my sounds would. Literally. But I love using that. Waves put out this really fun thing. I think it's called Berserk distortion. I'm always interested
First time I'm hearing about
any sort of like saturators, clippers, things that create nasty feedback or that really elevate a sound in that way. Do you have some go-tos in your production life that you're like, oh, this is my everything sounds better through it plugin or distortion go-to?
Yes. So I don't know if this is true in your corner of the production and music sphere, but in my scene, we put OTT on everything. Like almost everything. Okay. I've started putting it on vocals, but like definitely like, are you familiar with OTT?
I don't think so.
Okay. OTT is this multi-band compressor made by X-Fur Records. So they made Serum and they also made OTT. So I'm basically an X-Fur soldier. Thank you. But basically OTT, what it does is if you are to put it at its default setting, it squeezes and crushes your sound in such a unique way. It really sounds bad, but in such a good way.
Yeah.
Like, because it like every, like your lows are getting compressed and squashed. Your mids are getting separately compressed and squashed. And so are your highs. So it just comes in this like the hottest sound you've ever heard, like magma. And then from there you can dial it in and get the effect that you want.
Yeah.
But I love that default sound for certain things.
Yes.
And sometimes I will like take OTT, keep it as is. And then if I really want to get crazy, put another OTT on it and then dial those settings in. So it's like accentuating the craziness.
Oh my God,
of what's
you're out of control.
On the initial instance. Oh, always. So that, but also like, I use FL for a lot of my production.
Yeah.
And there is an incredible built-in stock distortion plugin called Destructor. DIST Ructor. It's a like 4-in-1. It's like you can get distortion, filter, chorus, and like a speaker modulator through it. And I run all my 808s through this. And I like turn the distortion as close to all the way up as I can.
Yes.
Sometimes all the way up. And it just, like, I'll have to show you this one day. Maybe after this, like it literally is so unhinged. The distortion. And it like there's different modes of it too. Like there's one called Cube that just basically makes it like it just sounds like squared.
Yeah.
Like the 808 just does like
yes.
Yeah. And so like I do that, and then if I think it's like too much, I will put the speaker modulator on it to like filter some of the highs and lows.
Right.
Kind of things, and it makes a cool effect. Yeah. If you have FL, that is free sauce. I'll also put like fruity fast distortion on the hi-hats sometimes, which is like a very stock plugin. I don't think you need to pay for that at all, even if you had like the beginner's version of FL. The stock distortion for FL is pretty cool. And then OTT or any kind of multi-band compressor.
Yeah.
And then not super distortion, but I love this plugin called Lossy. I think we talked about this last time. It is a plugin that will strip away artifacts of your sound. I think it's made by Goodhertz. It emulates the sound of lossy audio files.
Chase Bliss just took that algorithm and threw it into a pedal recently, I think.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lossy pedal. I want it so bad.
It's probably like $8 million.
Exactly. I don't play guitar enough to get that, or the data corruptor pedal that I've been seeing as well, which is like a huge crusher and everything. Just like taking sounds and making them way different. I love that.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing. I'm like in the middle of restoring a TAC Scorpion console. I don't know if you can see it behind me.
I can see it,
This super old 16-channel mixer from the 1980s. and I've like recapped everything on it. It's the more that I work on it, the better it starts sounding. But the thing that I love the most about it is that I just drive the inputs on it, where every synthesizer that I put through is so blown out, and then I run it through buses and channel all of that through the master section. So it's clipping like every single channel I can possibly hit on the way in.
Yes.
And then just playing the synth part that way, like using the clipping and seeing which kind of harmonics that I get. Sometimes it's like, oh, I don't need a whole chord here. I just need like a fifth. And that thing will sound so huge through the console, like clipping like crazy. Oh, I feel like we just went into complete like nerd black hole here.
No, I love this.
I love it too.
A huge fan of this. I want to, because like in my brain, it's like hard to compute. Like you could just run like a synthesizer playing like only fifths and just drive it through the console, like push the fader like all the way up, and it sounds massive. I'm interested in that. Wow.
It's funny because we're not making jazz. It's like there's nothing. No. We're not making clean, pristine things. We're like, no, let's see what it sounds like when it's about to break or explode.
Let's build a bomb.
Yeah, exactly.
And then explode
build
it.
A bomb.
Detonate it.
Oh my God. It's the Build a Bomb workshop.
Exactly. The Oppenheimers of music of audio. Over here.
Yes.
Matt from Eleventyseven and Glitchko.
I love it. Well, dude,
this is awesome.
We have done the time. And everything's going to edit down. I definitely don't want to. Here's what I would rather do. I would rather go ahead and do the Mr. Rogers goodbye on this one and just us plan on putting together another show where we can talk about more shit, because this is so fun for me, and I feel like we could go down so many different rabbit holes of content.
Do you mean like a show, like another podcast episode, or do you mean
we should do another
together?
We should do absolutely both.
Yes,
but I want to make sure that in the same way that you and I write pop music for audiences, that we're not doing like a 2-hour podcast episode where people are like, Jesus Christ, just stop talking already.
No, but like that's what, like, we make music for music audiences, but we can also make podcasts for podcast audiences who want to hear us talk about things.
That's it.
But I agree. We have done an hour. Maybe we should table some things.
Luke, you're an absolute pleasure.
I would be very happy.
I can't thank you enough for doing this remix for us. It's been such a pleasure working with you, and I hope it's like the start of a long and fruitful friendship and musical cohort together.
Dude, thank you. I appreciate that, and I wish the very same for us too. Thank you for letting me remix this song and for being such a nice fella and just a nerd just like me. And
open door policy for you at Rock Candy whenever you want to hang.
Absolutely. We'll definitely want to make the trip up there soon. And same here. Come to Nashville sometime.
I'll do it. Don't tempt me.
Oh, I will.
Eleventylife is a production of Rock Candy Recordings and Rock Candy Media. Every time you subscribe to Eleventylife, a unicorn disembowels your greatest fear.